The Rise and Legacy of Willem the Wit, a Court Jester's Tale. Welcome to Medieval Uncovered, where we peel back the myths and mud of the Middle Ages to reveal the stories that shaped our world. I'm your host, diving into the gritty, glorious, and downright wild tales of knights, peasants, and today, jesters. If you love history with a side of humor, hit that subscribe button and join our quest to uncover the past. Now, picture this. You're a kid in a nowhere village, armed only with a sharp tongue and a knack for making people laugh. One day, a noble spots you and says, "You're headed to the king's court." Sounds like a dream, right? For Willem the Wit, it was the start of a wild ride. This isn't just a story about jokes, it's about how one commoner used humor to charm a kingdom, challenge power, and leave a legacy. Stick with us to see why Willem's tale still resonates, and trust me, you won't want to miss the twists. Let's step into Eldoria and uncover his story. Willem grew up in a village called Thornwick, nestled in Eldoria's rolling hills. His family were tenant farmers, scraping by on barley and hope. But Willem was different. From age 5, he'd climb onto hay bales and impersonate the village reeve, exaggerating the man's nasal voice until even the sternest elders cracked a smile. By his teens, he was the star of every festival, juggling, singing bawdy songs, and pulling pranks, like sneaking a frog into the baker's dough. One autumn, during Thornwick's harvest festival, Willem's life changed. He was 19, performing a daring stunt, balancing on a barrel while juggling torches and roasting the local baron's obsession with his new velvet cape. The crowd roared, but one man watched silently. A noble named Lord Alfric, a court advisor passing through. After the show, Alfric approached Willem. "Boy," he said, "your tongue's sharper than my sword. The king needs men like you." Willem, thinking it was a jest, laughed, until Alfric handed him a sealed letter summoning him to court. Willem arrived at Eldoria's royal court in spring, a sprawling stone fortress buzzing with nobles, servants, and intrigue. For a village boy, it was overwhelming. Marble halls, gilded tapestries, and lords who smelled of perfume and ambition. He was given a modest room in the servants' quarters and a new outfit. Vibrant green and gold tunic, a red cap with a single feather, and his morat, carved by a court artisan. His job? Entertain the king and his court without offending anyone powerful. No pressure, right? At first, Willem stuck to safe acts. Juggling, lute songs, and acrobatics for the household staff. But he quickly learned that court humor was a high-stakes game. Nobles loved a laugh, but only if it flattered their egos or skewered their rivals. One night, during a minor feast, Willem tested the waters. A lord named Sir Baldwin was droning about his heroic hunt, clearly exaggerating. Willem stepped forward, morat in hand, and said, "My lord, your tale's so grand, the deer must have surrendered just to hear it." The room froze, then erupted in laughter, even from Baldwin. Willem had found his edge, humor that stung just enough to entertain but not enrage. Over months, Willem's reputation grew. He became the court's unofficial master of ceremonies, using humor to smooth over awkward moments. One evening, a banquet was delayed and the nobles grew surly. Willem leapt onto a table, morat raised, and declared, "My lords, if hunger is holy, this hall's a cathedral." The tension broke, and King Edric himself clapped. From then on, Willem was a fixture at major events, diffusing feuds and charming even the grumpiest dukes. But his role wasn't just about laughs. King Edric, surrounded by sycophants, valued Willem's honesty. In private, Willem would jest about court politics, mimicking a scheming advisor or poking fun at a lord's shady land grab. Edric began confiding in him, asking Willem to report on court gossip. Willem became the king's eyes and ears, a commoner with a noble's access. To make Willem's story relatable, let's zoom out and connect it to real-world examples. Jesters, like Willem, weren't just fictional archetypes. They existed across medieval Europe. Take Roland Lipitor, a 13th century English jester who served King Henry II. Roland was so trusted that he was gifted land, a rare honor for a commoner. Like Willem, he used humor to navigate a cutthroat court, once reportedly farting loudly during a solemn ceremony to mock a pompous bishop. The crowd laughed, and Henry spared him punishment. Or consider a modern parallel: comedians in oppressive regimes. In Soviet-era Russia, comics like Arkady Rykin used subtle satire to critique the government, slipping truths past censors. Like Willem, they walked a tightrope, knowing one wrong joke could land them in a gulag. These stories show that humor isn't just entertainment, it's a weapon for the powerless to challenge the powerful. Let's add a fictional anecdote to bring Willem's world to life. One winter, a haughty ambassador from a rival kingdom arrived, draped in furs so extravagant they rivaled the queen's. His demands for trade concessions had the court on edge. During a tense feast, Willem noticed the ambassador's self-important strut. He grabbed his morat, pranced in an exaggerated imitation, and proclaimed, "Behold, the only man whose cloak could bankrupt a kingdom." The hall roared, and even the ambassador, after a tense pause, smirked. The mood lightened, and the next day's negotiations went smoother. Willem's jest didn't just entertain, it saved a diplomatic disaster. Willem's life wasn't all feasts and applause. His duties extended beyond the court. During a border war, he joined the king's retinue, entertaining weary soldiers with songs and skits. Once he was sent across enemy lines to deliver a truce proposal. Disguised as a wandering minstrel, he used his wit to charm enemy guards, slipping past with a smile. But the risk was real. One slip and he'd be a prisoner, or worse. Back at court, rival jesters posed another threat. When a visiting duke brought his own entertainer, a sly performer named Torvald, a joke duel ensued. Torvald mocked Willem's rustic roots, calling him a pig farmer with a lute. Willem, unfazed, retorted, "Better a pig farmer than a peacock who squawks for scraps." The court roared, and Torvald slunk away. These duels were more than ego clashes. They were battles for the king's favor. By his late 30s, Willem felt the strain. The constant pressure to perform, the need to dodge political traps, and the physical toll of acrobatics wore him down. Meanwhile, Eldoria's court was changing. Professional troupes and scripted plays were replacing jesters, seen as relics of a less refined era. Willem's performances, once the heart of every feast, were now novelties. King Edric, who saw Willem as a friend, noticed his fatigue. In a quiet ceremony, he granted Willem a small estate near Thornwick, land, a cottage, and a pension. Willem returned to his village, a hero to the locals. He spent his days teaching young performers, sharing tales of court life, and occasionally jesting at festivals. His stories, recorded by a local monk, preserved Eldoria's history through a jester's eyes, capturing feuds, loves, and scandals no chronicler dared write. Willem's life teaches us a powerful lesson. Humor, wielded with wit and heart, can change the world. Whether you're facing a tough crowd at work, a family feud, or a personal challenge, channel Willem's courage. Use levity to lighten burdens, truth to spark change, and kindness to build connections. Next time you're in a tense moment, ask yourself, what would Willem do? Maybe a well-timed quip or a playful jab can turn the tide. That's the story of Willem the Wit, the jester who laughed his way from a village to a kingdom's heart. If this tale inspired you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs a laugh. Subscribe to Medieval Uncovered for more stories where history meets heart. And drop a comment, what's the boldest joke you've ever told? Check out the playlist on screen for more medieval adventures, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay witty and keep laughing.